Peace, family. This is Uncle Reem, and this is Uncle Reem's reactions. I wanted to, do a really quick update and uh, revisit a question that we asked, and I guess some of the first content we did on this particular topic, Wu-Tang and American Saga, separating fact from fiction. For those who new to the channel, if you're just checking in, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Let's get into it. So the update that I wanted to make was on the question of whether Raekwon and Ghostface's beef, if Raekwon really shot up Ghostface's home. And we talked about how uh, other Wu-Tang members were who spoke on the situation did state that Raekwon and Ghostface really had beef. Um, you know, the way Ray and Ghost tried to put it was that it just was some neighborhood beef, and some of their associates were beefing with each other. They didn't really elaborate much, but it seemed a bit questionable. Like, why he not really, talking about it? It seemed like, okay, maybe he's just observing the G code, the gangster code, and not talking about stuff that happened in the streets. But, Raekwon's book recently was released on November 30th. It's called From Staircase to Stage. Man, I was so excited about that book. I knocked it all out in one night. Rather, one full day, not just one night, one full day. However, that book does address what occurred between his people and Ghostface's people. And here's what happened. Raekwon has a friend. In a book he uses the name Jamie, but based on some of the things he states about Jamie, I kind of think that it was Power, because he says that Jamie actually was involved in financing Wu-Tang, and he was involved in Wu-Tang management. And he was one of the executive producers in the Wu-Tang projects. And if we look at the executive producers on the liner notes of Wu-Tang albums, it says Robert Diggs, who is the RZA, Mitchell Diggs, who is RZA's brother Power, Ali Grant, who was Mitchell Diggs, who is RZA's brother Divine, pardon me, Ali Grant, who is Oliver Grant, otherwise known as Power, and Dennis Coles, who is Ghostface Killer. So the four executive producers that are always featured in the liner notes of Wu-Tang albums are, Ghostface, Power, Divine, and RZA. It never said anybody named Jamie, which is the name that Ghostface uses, but just judging by, that the name that Raekwon uses, and judging by Raekwon and Power's relationship that we constantly see represented either on TV, like in a movie they were in called Black and White. They had a really close relationship where they hustled together. In Wu-Tang and American Saga, it shows Raekwon and Power's relationship where, where Raekwon is pretty much hustling for Power. And in his book, he talks about his friend Jamie, who I believe is Power, who he hustled for. Initially, they weren't. He wasn't hustling for him. He just was his friend, and Raekwon was hustling on what he described a level 3, and he say Power was hustling on what he described as a level 12, where he was getting money, he had cars, he was doing everything that he wanted to do, and so they eventually came together, and kind of both made a lot of money as a result of their relationship together. So at a certain point, just like in the show, Power and Divine, they had some dealings with each other in the show. In the book, he kind of alludes to RZA's brother Divine and his friend Jamie, who I believe is Power, had a situation that in Ghostface, was pretty much working with Divine, just like in the show. Ghostface got offended at something that occurred. There was some issue that pretty much triggered Ghostface. Ghostface actually in the show, Ghostface robbed Power's store. His parents had his dad owned a clothing store, and Ghostface went there and put a gun out on his father and robbed his clothing store. But in reality, what happened was Ghostface came and shot at Power, and he missed him, but he shot up Power's mother's crib or her home, and in retaliation, Power's crew shot up Ghostface's mother's apartment. So Raekwon never claims responsibility for being the one that did it, but he essentially stated that his friend Jamie's people did it. So that's the source of the story of Raekwon and Ghostface having beef with each other. The way that Raekwon put it, he didn't do it. His friend Jamie, or rather, I believe Power, he did it. But I'm thinking, I think he put it like, Jamie's people did it. Okay, but they shot up Ghostface's mother's home. So Ghostface's mother's home really did get shot up. Ghostface kind of he kind of brought it on, himself because he shot up the other guy's her mother's home, and that was the source of that transaction. So the show, of course, it's embellished and made in a way to keep the storyline going. But again, here's another instance of, like RZA said, the spiritual truth is intact. But it didn't naturally occur exactly as it did. However, when we consider, the implications of what happens when that type of stuff happens, when there's gunplay between two crews, it will be hard to reconcile those differences and make a group. So it's still a huge undertaking that RZA was able to, to get them to look past that beef and to look at the bigger picture and to make money as a group. So that aspect of the show, was real. That RZA was able to get them to squash their beef, and that beef right there, people tend to get killed over from my experience in the street. So, yeah. But that's all. That's all I have. Thank you all for viewing. Please check out all of the other content, and please check us out every Woo Wednesday. Peace.